The following is rated not safe for work. It contains strong language, adult situations, and lots of spoilers. Discretion is advised.
In the criminal justice system, cinematic-based offenses are considered especially heinous. The dedicated attorneys who investigate these villainous films are members of an elite squad known as the Reels of Justice. These are their stories.
Order, please, order. The Reels of Justice is now in session. Judge Big Ben Haslar presiding. The old eyes for the Honorable Judge Haslar. Be seated. Welcome to the 100th episode of Reels of Justice. Woo! There are some who said it couldn't be done, even more that said it shouldn't, thanks Mom, but we did it! Today we are hearing the case of the people versus Glen or Glenda, a 1953 semi-autobiographical docudrama written and directed by, as well as starring the infamous Eddie Wood, about a man who doesn't know how to tell his fiancée that he likes to dress up in women's clothes. For those of you unfamiliar with our court proceedings, we are here to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. As always in this courtroom, films are to be considered excellent until proven awful, and the burden of proof lies upon the prosecution to prove beyond the shadow of a reasonable doubt that this film is guilty. Mr. Maynard Bangs, you are appearing on behalf of the prosecution. You may present your opening statement.
Your Honor, esteemed members of the court, this is one of those days where I regret having gone into the field of cinematic legislation. Perhaps I should have listened to my mother and gone into dance instead. Yet, here we are. And I've the unhappy duty of prosecuting Edward D. Wood Jr.'s Glen or Glenda, a movie whose incompetence is only surpassed by its earnestness. It brings me no pleasure to prosecute this film here today. It's like picking on the kid in class with mittens pinned on his jacket. It's just not fair. I don't even know if the accused knows what it did wrong. I'm not even sure if it's mentally fit enough to stand trial, and yet my job here today is to prove mud is dirty and Glen or Glenda is bad. I don't hate this movie. Instead, I'm moved to pity. I hope that when the jury finds this film guilty, and I'm sure it will, I implore the court to pass down a lenient sentence. I throw this film upon the mercy of the court. Yes, today is a dark day in these most hallowed halls. It's our 100th episode, but I don't feel like celebrating. I thank you.
Way to bring us all down, sir. Appearing on behalf of the defense is Mr. Trace Beaulieu. Please present your opening statement.
One, you're totally wrong.
Yeah.
Two, I have very little evidence to prove this, but the thin tissue of justice that I will be showing will prove that I am right.
We're all in suspense. Mr. Maynard Bangs, please present your first exhibit.
All right. Well, again, like I said, I have to prove mud is dirty here. How do you describe to someone that's never seen mud that mud is dirty? I don't know. But it is. This movie is like two films at once, right? You've got the semi-autobiographical story of Ed Wood, who's kind of playing himself. He's a cross-dresser. He doesn't know how to tell his girlfriend this, and it brings him seemingly a lot of shame and a lot of frustration. And then you kind of got another half of the movie, which is sort of the original intention of the producer, George Weiss. Around this time, there's a very popular story in America about Christine Jorgensen. She was the first American to be widely known for having sex reassignment surgery, which was performed in Denmark. And the whole idea that Weiss had was to basically make an exploitation film exploiting this very popular story. And Ed Wood comes and says, I can make that. And instead, Ed Wood totally hijacks it and makes it all about cross-dressing, which is different. But Ed Wood doesn't seem to understand that. So what you have is just the tones just suddenly change halfway through to being about a whole other person. It's Alan or Anne in the second half of the story. And and it's basically about a completely different topic, really, and it feels very rushed and tacked on. And you've also got this huge nightmare sequence in the middle of it, was just added for padding, right? I mean, George Weiss just wanted to pad out the film, so he added a lot of like autoerotic, BDSM, rape fantasy stuff, which I'm sure Ed Wood didn't even know was going to go in. And so you just got this. I don't even know if it's called a structure. It's just like pieces of Play-Doh sort of shammed together into one.
Okay, Mr. Beaulieu, does this have a confused narrative?
First off, let me address one of the first things that you mentioned. Is Ed Wood playing himself? And now that I've addressed that and kind of forgot about all the other stuff that you said, because I kind of drifted away for a moment. But
Me too, sir. Same.
I think I'm back now. First of all, this is, it's interesting that you try to bring factual news into a fictional setting, because it is a movie after all, and as artificial as movies are, I mean, it's the Heisenberg of filmmaking. You can't help but have seen it once you did, and I think many people have not experienced this film as many times. I don't think Ed Wood has seen this film or did see this film as many times as I've seen this film, and on the big screen and on screens bigger than Ed Wood saw it on, and more. So if you took that all into and added it, the total screen footage, like square footage, would probably be like close to a football field. So, imagine Ed Wood watching his film on a football field. I've strayed from my point, but I think I did that only to distract from the fact that I may or may not be talking about anything I know. But I do know that Ed Wood, call him Robin Hood of filmmakers, the way you described his heroic, seizure of the film and rescuing it from, the sheriff of so-called cinematic justice, and who it really came out as a hero in more than one way, which I can't describe.
Mr. Bangs, how much square footage have you seen this film on?
Definitely not as much as the defense counselor, but a good number of times, and I've seen the defense riff it, in fact, and it's a huge improvement on the movie.
Objection.
In the raw.
Objection. Riff. Praise, I think, is the proper word.
Yes, that is
Get
true.
your nomenclature straight, Mr. Bangs, from here on out, please.
Heaps of praise.
I'll stand down.
Seen...
I'm standing down. Look at me. I'm laying down. I'm flat on the ground. Go ahead.
Well, get that good nap going while Mr. Bangs presents his next exhibit.
This may come as some surprise, Your Honor, but the acting in this movie isn't very good.
What?
I don't think Dolores Fuller is much of an actor, and I'm not even sure how willing she wanted to be in this project specifically. I think she was happy to be in any movie, kind of trying to kickstart her career, but she had made comments in later years that she really wasn't all that comfortable with Ed Wood's cross-dressing. Those comments are a little bit meaner than I've put it, but I don't think she was entirely all on board with being on this role, and I think her discomfort shows. But luckily, her bad acting is outshined by Ed Wood's bad acting. And to say that it's wooden is, pardon the pun, totally fair. I think that's the origin of wooden acting, actually, is Ed Wood's acting is where the term wooden comes from.
Can the jury object?
No. He's stiff and unconvincing, essentially playing himself. And he seems almost uncomfortable most of the time, and I think that's one of the reasons he didn't put his name. He's not credited as Ed Wood as himself as the actor. He goes as I think it's Daniel Davis is the way he's credited, because I think he knows he's not going to do a good job, and I think he's also afraid of the public backlash he was going to get.
All right, defense counselor, is there hidden gems in the acting here, or is the prosecution just flat out wrong?
People are actually giving wonderful performances. Dolores Fuller it does a great job of being a bad actress in this movie. It's a very subtle layering of inexperience, and it brings a freshness, I think, to that role, as she is new to this experience that she is going through with the character that Ed's playing. And I think that it really captures the audience's heartstrings, which there aren't any of, by the way. There is no heartstring. There's like these tubes and stuff that go in there, and some is like flushing, and others is nourishment, and you need that in a film to engage an audience. So I would disagree with whatever you said that I'm agreeing with now that I'm saying. That would be different than if I could just. I'm not going to approach the bench. I'm not doing that again. But I would. Have you ever seen a film save a man's life? I think
have not.
This film should get not only an award or a statue to it in town, but an apology from everyone who has seen or not seen this film. So that's going to be a long list. But Bela Lugosi's life, I believe, was saved by this movie for a couple of weeks. Okay, it's not quantity, it's like he had a couple of good weeks after this film. But for that, hero status. Who saves lives? Heroes.
That's fair. And yeah, I mean, maybe it saved his life. It certainly prolonged it temporarily. Yeah.
I'd call it a win.
Yeah,
it's more than a loss. But yeah, thanks for bringing up Bela Lugosi, because he's totally tacked on in this movie, right? I mean, Ed Wood managed to, I guess, talk him into it because he could pay him and he could get more money for more drugs. But Lugosi's, he's like a second narrator to this movie, because most of the movie is narrated by Timothy Farrell, and he plays a psychologist who's kind of telling the story of Glen or Glenda and Alan or Anne and explaining it to some dim-witted detective. And then Bela Lugosi is sort of this, I don't know if they call him the scientist, but he seems to have some sort of religious powers. He can talk and make lightning strike. He can create and uncreate people with the wave of his hands. And everything he says is gibberish. He shouts things about pull the strings, and he talks about a big green dragon. And I don't think any of it means really anything. You're just, Bela Lugosi was tacked on so they could maybe try to sell some more tickets.
Well, Bela Lugosi clearly is God in this film. He is the one pulling the strings and not making sense. So that's proof thereof of it or him.
There you go. Do you have any more exhibits, Mr. Banks?
Yeah, one last one. I think this is kind of the touchy subject of this, because I think this movie does tell kind of an important story, but it's a very personal one to Ed Wood, and I'm not sure that it goes much past that. I think some people want to reclaim the film as kind of an advocate for trans rights, kind of an early element of that, but I think it really falls short of that. Wood justifies the male cross-dressing basically by suggesting that men have to wear uncomfortable clothes all day, so they should get to go home and wear something comfortable, right? And he justifies it further by saying, it's men who design clothes and makeup and all that stuff that you enjoy. So since we make it, we should get to enjoy it. And I think that totally throws out any consideration he might have for, say, female to male cross-dressing, right? Because women already get comfortable clothes, so why should they have to cross-dress? So that kind of that perspective is completely left out of the film. And also, he really goes out of his way to adamantly profess not being homosexual. I mean, the movie says that quite clearly. Glen is a transvestite, but not homosexual. And he says in all other instances he's quite normal. But it's important to Ed Wood, I think, is that he is making a personal plea to the audience for tolerance of basically just himself and maybe a few other, cisgendered heterosexual crossdressers that are out there. But after that, he plans on closing the door behind him. He's not coming out for tolerance and acceptance of all gender fluidity or anything wider than that. So before that, tries to get reclaimed by the public, I think that this is a plea for tolerance to a very narrow margin of people who, in Ed Wood's mind, is namely Ed Wood.
Okay, Mr. Beaulieu, does this get cross-dressing or transvestism incorrect?
It seems to be an accurate portrayal of that. The psychology of this film is kind of batshit, I'll admit, like the editing in this film. But it's like you said earlier, he's he's really kowtowing to the people who are giving him the money to make the movie. So if he can get even a little bit of his own personal view into this thing and get it into theaters where people can watch it, I think he's accomplished his his goal. And he made a very entertaining film in a lot of different ways.
Yes.
And extremely creative. With a limited budget and one corner bookcase, he's created an entire world. He didn't have the MCU. He had, one corner bookcase, couple of plants, and a tree which shows up in his living room and on the street later, which I think is incredibly creative. It's Gilliam-esque. He's so far ahead of his time. And influenced everyone who came after him. So I would say yes to comfortable clothing.
Well, I think we can all agree with that. But yeah, I think the ending kind of shows his hand at that, right? Because the movie ends with Glen, quote unquote, being cured by married life and love from his girlfriend, his wife at that point, and he stops cross-dressing. And I think that's a very narrow-minded, archaic view of it. I don't know if Ed Wood believes that he could be cured, that he would stop, that it's a temporary thing, rather than just being a facet of his personality, something he wants to do. But it makes you wonder, Ed Wood is pleading to the audience for acceptance. Does Ed Wood even accept himself? And with that, I will rest, Your Honor.
All right, the prosecution has rested. Mr. Trace Beaulieu, you may present your first exhibit.
I would present the entire film as Exhibit A for excellence, even though A I meant as a grade, and excellence starts with an E. But you understand where I'm coming from. So yes, the film itself, there it is. It stands as it, on its own merits, proudly looking very dapper, by the way. For the world to judge. It's very raw. It's like, hey, this is me. Take a look. And if you don't like it, tough tacos, Tony.
Prosecution, is it tough tacos?
I guess so. I mean, if the whole movie's an exhibit, that's a wide shot for me to take. But yeah, if I think it's a look into one man's personal psyche, and I think it's painted very much by his perspective of himself, which, as we know, is not always accurate. We don't always know ourselves as well as we hope.
Okay. Defense counselor, any further points to bring up in defense of this film?
Oh, if there was only time. Not only do we get Bela Lugosi, we also get a glimpse into how films are made. And you can actually see the film being made in front of your eyes. Throwing in buffaloes just to shake it up a little bit, make sure the audience is still watching. The admittedly unfortunate sequence that got tacked on against his wishes, as you said yourself, maybe without him even knowing about the 1938 vintage whatever that is, lingerie
stag
porn,
film.
Stag, yeah, it's like very creepy. And then they have which it's almost a deep fake. It's almost that evil, having Bela Lugosi have to watch that or pretend to watch it. He's not even watching. He's reacting to nothing. And then we think he's watching this horrible thing and he's some kind of weirdo. when in fact they could have put anything in there. He could be reacting to, like an alien coming out of a chest. I'm seeing that now. I've strayed again from my point, but I think I've made it somewhere in there.
Okay. Mr. Bings, do you have any rebuttal?
I don't.
All right. And are you resting on that, defense counselor, or do you have anything further to bring up?
I don't want to take more time. Let me just say no.
Very well. Both sides have rested their cases. Mr. Maynard Bangs, you may present your closing argument.
Your Honor, esteemed members of the court, in the making of my case here today, which dealt with a strange and curious motion picture, no punches were pulled. No easy way out was taken, except for these closing arguments. This was definitely the easy way out of this part. But many of the aspects of this film that we discussed were actually, in real life, as confusing and convoluted as they seem. Glen or Glenda is a film that has earned its reputation as one of the worst films of all time by being a muddled, disjointed, cobbled together mishmash of whatever the hell the director and producer could throw up on the screen, pun intended, for the naive teenage audience of the 1950s to gawk at. These were arguments of stark realism, extraordinarily one-sided, but giving you the facts, all the facts as they are today. You are the jury. Judge ye lots. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bangs. And Mr. Beaulieu, your closing argument, please.
If you don't agree with me, I won't put my clothes back on.
Whoa.
Starting now.
Oh, no.
Let's all get into the deliberation room then very quick. Thank you both. Members of the jury, Mr. Big Ben Haslar, Mr. Dylan J. Schlender, and Mr. Beware. Beware of the big green dragon. He sits on your doorstep. He eats Ryan Luis Rodriguez. You have all heard the facts concerning this case. It is now up to you to determine this film is guilty of being a bad movie. The bailiff will escort you to the deliberation room to render your verdict. I wish I had satin endies for my enjoyment. Ugh.
There you go.
Perfect.
There you go.
That's exactly what I expected.
So, gentlemen, this is a fascinating film. A deeply fascinating film. It is the cinematic equivalent of an MRI of Ed Wood's brain. It's the origin story for all of his notorious idiosyncrasies, from stock footage to Bela Lugosi. And I still have no idea what Bela Lugosi is doing in this film. And by that, I mean, I don't know how he got here, and I don't know what he's doing in the film. But I, call me crazy, like this movie, and not in an ironic way. Like, I appreciate it, but I'm interested in hearing what you guys have to say. So let's go, Dylan.
Well, thank you, Ryan. It certainly did. To me, I think this lived up to its reputation. It definitely had a reputation that preceded it. I've never seen a single Ed Wood movie before. I just, again, know him by
you're missing out, buddy.
reputation.
Missing
out. So like I've heard the stories, so I'm familiar with that. It's my understanding that these movies are very infamously riffed all the time.
Have you seen the Tim Burton movie, Ed Wood?
No, I have not.
God. You need to correct that right now.
I've seen Beetlejuice. I imagine it's close.
Oh, that's the same thing. Yeah, it's the same thing.
So, man, the thing is, this movie is just so kludged together, and like you kind of want to be sympathetic. It's like what Maynard said, right? It's like this movie doesn't understand that it's bad. It has an earnestness to it that is a little endearing. Like all the language and the psychology, like Trace was saying, wasn't really in place at the time to really properly convey some of the stuff they wanted to talk about. And obviously it was very personal to Mr. Wood to get his story out there. But then, it is bogged down by baffling writing. Like Bela Lugosi's character makes no sense. It's very jarring. And then they do the tacked on little story with the with the sex change at the end, and it's just like what is this really like trying to be, and like the psychiatrist talking the whole time. He has a great narration voice. He sounds like one of those guys that would do like the voiceover in a a science video they would make you watch in school, like in 3rd grade. And so
I
it's just
wish they made us watch this in school.
Oh God, no.
Great.
No. This should not be shown to children. I would. So I am a little 50-50 on just because I do. But see, the thing is, like, I think maybe one of the reasons I like it is because it's so bad, though. You know, like this is like a so bad it's good kind of thing, and we know
it's
where that
interesting.
lands.
You can't stop looking at it, right? Like
in
it
this
does
courtroom.
so much.
It's short.
It is a movie car crash. You really want to look closer.
I mean, it's just some of the things like,
on.
what if we told you that this dock worker was wearing satin undies? He is.
He is.
It's like, but like that's not a joke though. So we're laughing at it, but it's supposed to be like anyone could be wearing satin undies, even your neighbor. You know, and it's like they
Even
could
the
also
person
be
sitting in the theater right next to you.
Yeah, I know. It's like they could even be a communist. You know, it's like, yeah. So it's just, it's really, it is a mess, but it's kind of like when you make the mess of like the Thanksgiving leftovers the next day, you put them all on one plate, mix them all together, and it is like it'll feed you. Yeah. So Ben, what are you thinking?
Yeah. What's going on, Benjamin?
I don't know what to make of it. I mean, I do sort of like it, but like Dylan, I'm not sure if I like it because it's just so interesting. Like I just can't stop studying it and poking at it. But it gets so many things wrong. Like, male pattern baldness is caused by tight hats and, pretty much everything about
that's actually
transvestism.
Documented as true, but whatever you say.
Well, show me those. I've never worn a hat in my life,
I'm looking at the records right now, sir.
But it does do a lot with so little, so it's impressive on those merits. It blows everything up with 4 days of filming and like how much this space and sets that they have to work with. It kind of blows my mind. I couldn't.
Oh yeah, but you know that all after the fact. If you're just watching the movie in and of itself, like if this movie had never been riffed and it just now got thrown on your radar, I mean, how would you treat it? It's
I would still be curious about the director. I mean, I have so many questions that would have been unanswered at that point and are still unanswered. Like what is Bela Lugosi even talking about? I can't stop thinking about it.
And no one that knows could tell you because they're all dead.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I don't think they knew. I mean, this movie was trying to be an exploitation feature, and they're just like, hey, we could say Bela Lugosi's in it, and that might sell more tickets, which was a point Maynard brought up, which is a good point.
I'm going to go ahead and go first. I'm going to go ahead and lock in guilty only because I don't think it achieves what the reaction out of people that it was wanting to. It did make a movie, but beyond that, I don't think that it, I don't feel better about cross-dressing or transvestism, or that I even understand Ed Wood better than I did before going in. So I think on that score, it kind of misses its marks.
See, I think that's why I appreciate it, because I don't understand it. And I want to keep trying. And I think that it makes me more of an active participant in this whole film-going experience that I find incredibly charming and alluring. But Dylan, let's hear, what do you think?
All right, I've got to lock in guilty as well. It's so bad it's good kind of thing. I understand why everyone likes Ed Wood and likes riffing him, and it's because the movie is bad. Sincerity. I mean, we've seen a lot of movies that are made by sincere people that just fall short, and this is one of them. It's just too all over the place. I gotta go guilty. I apologize because again, I don't think it quite understands that it's bad. I do you feel bad for it, but it's like it has to understand it did something wrong. It's like I'm sorry.
Well, I almost watched it again for the second time in 4 days, so I'm gonna go lock in not guilty.
That's fair.
Let's go out there and tell that very handsome judge.
Mr. Foreman, have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor. In the case of the People versus Glen or Glenda, we find the defendant guilty of being a bad movie.
The verdict is so rendered. I hereby order Glen or Glenda to be fed to the dragon outside our doorstep, or to whatever the hell it was Bela Lugosi was talking about. Court is adjourned.
No, I said lenient.
Well, we don't know if the dragon's real or metaphorical, so.
It's real.
Because when you get fed to a metaphorical dragon, that's all the better.
Yeah, exactly. Now it might learn. All right, this is Charlie Brunson reporting to you live from outside the Reels of Justice. Maynard Bangs, would you care to share your thoughts on the jury's verdict?
Oh, I don't know whether to laugh or cry because it's a bad movie, but it's super charming and eccentric, and it's infinitely fascinating. But it is so. It does fail to.
No, it's bad, is what you're trying to say, Mr. Banks.
Yeah, it fails to achieve.
I know
goal,
something
I
about
think,
bad
so.
movies.
Yeah, you made a lot of them.
Yes, you do. We had a fun time. I'm glad Trace came on and did this. He is certainly the expert on this film. So we had a good time.
All right, and speaking of which, here comes Trace Beaulieu. Excuse me, I bet you never thought you'd get to talk to your hero, Charlie Bronson, but here we are. Could I get a word on how you feel about today's verdict?
Well, Charlie, we've all been down that dark tunnel. I know you have many times. I was just trying to find my pocket map of the local area because I think I'm in Salem because I just saw a witch trial. I want to. Do you have a watch or some way of telling me what time it is? Because I think we're back in the 1700s. This is a travesty of justice.
You know, I never moved past the 1970s myself.
I appreciate that. I like the wide lapel. I think that's coming back.
Thank you.
The light up tie, however, you want to live that way, fine.
Jill liked it.
We're going back to court for that, I'm sure.
Probably.
If I cared enough, I would be heartbroken. But I have another client that the wheels of justice keep grinding people into the dirt, and you've done that today. So I guess you've done your job. I hope you're very happy. I hope you can look yourself in the mirror when you're shaving and remember that you killed a movie.
All right. Actually, I've had so much work done I don't shave anymore. My cheeks are always this rosy. So thank you. That's all we have from the courthouse today. Let's go back to the studio for a post-trial analysis.
Hey, Belly.
Hey.
I went to Emmett's Fix-A-Chop too. Fix Emmett.
Oh man, that was Trace. That was fun, man. What a weird movie. What is this movie?
How many times do you think you've seen it, Trace?
Oh, probably 50, close to 50 or more.
That's
and I'll still forget what's coming next. I go, wow, are we in the war part yet? Because it's all, like you said, it's a mishmash of cutting and slicing and dicing, and yet there's still kind of a through story, but a lot of avant-garde kind of crazy detours.
It'd be interesting to see if Ed Wood had been able to have the power the whole time and be able to tell nothing but the story he wanted to do, or if the producer had gotten his way and actually been able to get Christine Jorgensen to play herself in an actual biography of Jorgensen, that would have been interesting.
Was it really made in 4 days?
That's what I
I'm
saw
sure
on
they didn't work
Wikipedia.
all day.
Now, Trace,
4 6-hour days.
You've done a lot of movies since 1988 in different forms. Is this your favorite that you've done?
I forget who mentioned it. There's a lot of charm in this movie, and there's a lot of earnestness on behalf of the filmmaker. Yes, he had a task to be exploitive, and I think it does that pretty well. But he also got, to be pretty creative and personal, which is victory all around. It's batshit enough to be so entertaining that I see new things every time I see it, and there's not a lot to discover.
Yeah. I feel like I forget it quite a lot. But speaking of, this is our 100th episode here on the Reels of Justice.
Woo-hoo!
So, but the Mads just celebrate their 7-year anniversary. Correct?
That is correct. Yeah, Easter Sunday.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. We were going to have cake, but Frank's in Manhattan and I'm in Minnesota, so we didn't do that.
You can have cake on Zoom. It's possible.
Zoom cake. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and we've got another film we're going to be riffing An MST classic in May. We'll be doing The Brain That Wouldn't Die, which
Nice.
Yay!
Oh,
everyone
that's
knows
great.
Jan in the
Fantastic.
Pan.
Jan in the Pan. Yeah.
We're gonna trim the movie down to fit an hour format. I think there's enough that we can trim, and you'll still get the story. I think you'll still understand what's going on. But it zips along much quicker, and they're much more fun. And we have found that our bladders only hold an hour's worth of urine, so we have to keep the shows at that length.
I told you guys to stop drinking urine before the show.
Oh, jeez.
But we get the carbonation delivered to the house, so it's.
Yeah, no, that's a great choice. I'm looking forward to that. I think I have that one on VHS. The Brain That Would Not Die.
We're not going to look back and see what we did in the past. I think Riff Tracks has done this again, and a lot of people have riffed it. So there might be some overlap. There might be some jokes that were just the right joke for that time. So we're going to try to go in clean and with our filters open.
It's
I do
ironic.
feel like
I just watched that movie literally 15 minutes ago.
Oh, you're kidding.
I just finished watching it.
Rift?
Yes, the MST3K episode, yes.
I feel like the title's the spoiler, though. I mean, if the brain doesn't die, I mean...
It's actually the head
technically
that wouldn't die.
Yeah, it's the head that wouldn't die, but
Yeah.
then they got the title wrong at the beginning.
Oh.
Yeah, it doesn't
I
make
think
a
my
lot of
point still stands.
sense.
And
as I
originally it
remember.
was called The Black Door, which I don't know what that's in reference to, but that's the working title of the film.
Oh, it's like a Karloff movie.
Speaking of stag films, there's The Green Door, but...
Wow, I am just thinking of the exciting poster for The Black Door, as opposed to the poster they wound up with. The Black Door. Let's keep pitching. Come on.
It'd be a good Rolling Stones documentary title.
Oh.
right?
The
They finally
scary
painted
door.
the door black,
Yeah.
and
How come no
So
one
they
came
always
out
wanted
with
to.
Italian Rolling Stone black paint? A little can of,
they should have.
merchandise.
You need somebody to exploit that song, and they would have gotten it made. So that's the second Tuesday, right? So that'll be
I believe
May 10th.
I believe so. Yeah, I don't know if I actually
Yeah.
set a date, but don't go by anything I say because I have absolutely know what time it is. I don't know what time it is. I don't know what year we're in.
It's 2022.
Nah.
I told you, it was 74, baby.
That's a good Bronson. It's very convincing.
Thank you.
He's been working on it all hour.
For years.
Back from the dead, Charlie Bronson.
Exactly. But yeah, so yeah, they're always like the second Tuesday, so that would be May 10th. Looking at the calendar, so everyone should check that out. So they're always $10. And
That's a pack of
I
cigarettes.
always
A pack of smokes costs
Oh,
$10.
absolutely.
Come on.
it's a great
A
deal.
half
All
a
the
gallon of
Rift Tracks
gas.
movies are basically that too. And you get the download. A lot of times we are recording. I don't get to watch it live, but I get the download, and that's fantastic. And you just did your 7th collection of shorts as well.
Yes. Those are always
yeah.
fun.
And that was
My favorite.
That was a
packages.
great
Oh,
collection.
so good.
Yeah, this one was really good. If you got to see it, some of those were the typing machine stuff is just baffling. I think
we sometimes we choose these and we go, I don't know if it's going to work or not. It's kind of it's office machines from like 100 years ago. There's something bizarre. I love the woman who's like the fastest typist. She
Yeah.
was cool.
She was great, and they had like the stenographer thing that was attached to the chest.
Oh yes, the strap-on stenography typewriter. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
What?
The strap-on stenographer.
Oh, that's
I
excellent.
have never seen any device as horrific and yet less erotic.
The least sexy strap-on that you've ever seen. That one is interesting because it's all this technical kind of. It's kind of like an introduction to all this machinery, but like it still feels like they should be playing it in some middle school class. So I think I say like, who is this movie for?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know.
Nobody who had an interesting life, I think.
Yeah.
And I love that every one of
Apology to
those
all the,
machines is probably 200 or 300 pounds, and now it's like it's an app. It doesn't weigh anything.
So it's great to live in the future where we can still watch Glenda, and Charlie Bronson movies in the same day.
Oh, there's got to be
so we
some
love
like
living in the future.
Kevin Bacon linked to the Bronson and Ed Wood. We'll have to research that.
There's got to be. Well, he was in Death Sentence, which is kind of a remake of Death Wish.
And that's not how the Kevin Bacon game works. They have
it's this person worked with this person, so they're
Well, find me what J. Lee Thompson movie Kevin Bacon was in.
I'm sure he's. I'm gonna Google
Didn't
it
he
right
direct
now.
Tremors?
Oh, I wish.
swear.
No,
that'd
the
be
last
Ron Underwood.
the last movie that J. Lee Thompson directed is going to be my recommendation, but I don't want to spoil it right now.
That is a spoiler, absolutely. Now, Trace, we always ask our guests for a recommendation of a movie you think people should see. So what is a movie that people should absolutely check out if they haven't?
I am awfully fond of, brace yourselves, Swedish filmmaker Roy Andersson. Very surrealist and extremely dark and very, very funny, but very dark. Songs from the Second Floor and A Pigeon Sat on a Branch, reflecting on existence. Those two, actually, You the Living, it's a trilogy. You should really watch all three of those. But very dark, very bleak. Extremely well art directed, and very darkly funny. So it's kind of like Delicatessen, kind of, but darker and bleaker. Gilliam, Brazil, but bleaker. So
Yeah, less strap-on stenography machines.
none of that. Yes.
Yeah. I know last time you were here, you recommended his About Endlessness.
Yes. Another one is that's all I talk about, isn't it?
I mean,
Man's
every
got a
time
type.
Frank's here, he recommends.
No, you came on. You recommended Wim Wenders Until the End of the World as well, which is different.
Yes. Yeah.
Love that movie.
The
but
5-hour
great.
version.
Yes. Still good.
Yes, that was the first time he was here. But second, he definitely did About Endlessness because I've researched this Anderson fellow before. But yeah, no, Swedish, what absurdist comedy? You'd say?
Yeah,
Chris?
if you like that genre, and I know the kids are all into it, Swedish absurdism.
Nice, sweepsurdism.
Swordism.
It's there, it's somewhere there.
Absfeedism.
Absolutely.
Oh.
No, I'll just have to check out his whole and they call it that the trilogy you mentioned is called the Living Trilogy. So those are some definitely cool things to check out. I imagine they're all in Swedish.
They are. They're
So,
subtitled.
Yeah.
I think some of it might be on YouTube. I know a lot of his commercial work is on YouTube, and that's how I got into him through that.
All right, fantastic. Well, I guess I will go. So, my recommendation today, not much of an intro to it. I'm just going to recommend 1996's The Birdcage.
Oh, nice.
It's an English language remake of 1978's La Cage aux Folles, and it stars Robin Williams and Nathan Lane as an openly gay couple who own a drag club in South Beach. And when Robin's son asked to have his fiance's parents over for dinner, including her ultra-conservative Republican senator father, they fear the couple won't be accepting of their lifestyle and decide to masquerade as a heterosexual couple, with Lane cross-dressing as the mother. Hilarity ensues. Gene Hackman ends up dressing in drag and loving it. And in the end, we all learn it's better to accept ourselves as who we are, find the people willing to accept us too, and not give a shit about the ones who don't. The Birdcage is currently streaming on HBO Max.
God, the funniest scene has to be when Nathan Lane's doing the John Wayne walk and Robin Williams, he's like, no good. And Robin Williams is like, no, I just never realized John Wayne walked like that.
Yeah.
I
whole
adore
movie is
any
very
time Hank Azaria slips in the shoes.
I do
Which
not wear
happens at
shoes
least
because they make
95
me fall
times.
down.
It's adorable.
Yeah, Hank Azaria was not given enough movies. They put him in Godzilla, and they wouldn't do anything else with him after that. I don't know why.
He's
Big
like,
Ben.
You can have my wigs. Oh no, which wigs? The good ones. Oh no. Yeah, no, that movie's great. Good pick.
Yeah, I think it's like your brother's favorite.
It is hilarious. It's up there.
It's one of my mom's favorite movies. Never shuts up about it.
Nice.
Oh, your mom has
getting a
great
lot of
taste.
bingo card here. That's true. She brought you up. Us you.
Oh.
Big Ben, what's your recommendation?
I'm going to go with another film from the same year as Glen or Glenda and talk about Tokyo Story. While Ed Wood was over here getting the facts wrong about male pattern baldness, Yasujiro Ozu was across the Pacific Ocean, crafting one of the most honest looks about parent-child relationships as the parent approaches the ends of their lives, while the children are trying to carve their own paths into the professional world. The parents can't help but love their children, but both are in very different phases in their lives with very different needs, as the corporate world can be very demanding of your time. It also kind of serves as an unintentional time capsule of post-war Japan, as they and the rest of the world at large was beginning to modernize very quickly. Although I don't know that the title makes a whole lot of sense, because just under half of the action takes place away from Tokyo, but don't let that discourage you from checking it out. It's on HBO Max, the Criterion Channel, and Canopy. Support your local libraries.
So it's the Jason Takes Manhattan of Japanese cinema.
You're going to have to explain that one to me.
Well,
because it's away. Yeah, no, half of it takes place in Tokyo, whereas Manhattan is like more of like a fourth.
Yeah, well, but they get there eventually. But no, that's a fun one. I'll have to check that one out. Dylan, I know you were excited for yours.
Also, I was using my crack Charlie Bronson, J. Lee Thompson mind. The Kevin Bacon connection. Kevin Bacon's in End of Line with Wilford Brimley, who was also in 10 to Midnight, which was directed by J. Lee Thompson. So that's like, bam. That's how good I am.
That's it.
So anyway,
But the internet is your guide, right?
No. I knew that. I know every Wilford Brimley movie as well. And not even going to talk about Brigham City.
You at Brimfest?
Yeah, that was me. I had a ball cap on because I went in the
carpool
cosplay.
next time.
I was cosplaying as a bowl of oatmeal.
For the win.
See, you gotta watch that ball cap, Schlenzo, though. You're gonna go male pattern baldness, though.
I've got such thick, luscious hair. All right, so I am recommending the final J. Lee Thompson movie, and how apropos that it also stars me, Charlie Bronson. And that is Genjite, Forbidden Subjects. And let me tell you something. This is a real trash movie, but it's slick as hell. Basically, I, Charlie Bronson, go around taking out the sex peddlers, the types they kidnap the children and sell them into sex slavery. It's very graphic and disturbing. Don't watch this movie if you think you don't like, anything really, because the movie's pretty awful, to be honest.
Don't watch it. Don't watch it if you don't like sex trafficking.
Yeah,
who does that? Not exclude.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the thing is, the movie tries to make the point about how terrible all those things is, but they might go a little too far. I mean, the movie's graphic, it's violent, it's vulgar, and it's pretty racist too, actually. So, but the thing is,
endorsement of this film.
But the thing is, though, this movie did happen. It is the end of J. Lee Thompson's career, so you need to watch it as a cultural artifact, Ryan.
Now, what sort of Rotten Tomatoes score does it currently?
This has a whopping, overwhelming, a tremendous 0% critics.
0%.
Based on 6 reviews. Now, people, if we get to 200 iTunes reviews, Reels of Justice can be on Rotten Tomatoes, and we can bring up these movies that deserve to be brought up in the critical scores. So go to Apple Podcasts, leave us a positive review, and we will get these Bronson movies where they need to be.
That's a good reason not to do it. I think you're not.
I know. I'm going to delete my review right now.
Exactly. You didn't think this out. Big Ben, send us on home with your rec.
What? I already went.
You already did.
Tell Ryan he gets to go.
Ryan, what's my last recommendation?
Guys, we've had a lot of fun today discussing one of my favorite ironic auteurs. And for my recommendation this week, I've selected something from a more sincerely appreciated singular filmmaker, Andrei Tarkovsky, specifically his 1979 masterpiece, Stalker. It's one of the most interesting science fiction films I have ever seen, and it follows a mysterious man known as a stalker who leads 2 other men into an area known as the Zone. Inside the Zone is apparently a room that grants you your innermost desires, but does anyone really know what their true innermost desires are? This film hypothesizes that no, you don't. If you like your sci-fi cerebral and with plenty of room for individual interpretation, step into the Zone. AutoZone. Stalker is currently streaming on the Criterion Channel.
Okay, that's an interesting one. Trace, have you seen any of these, especially Conjite?
No, I haven't seen any of these science fiction movies, not even La Cage aux Folles.
Oh, yeah, well... less of a science fiction. I think is that one's.
Although
more of a comedy, but I have to see it. Too.
The Robin Williams one does have Nathan Lane, and he's kind of like a special effect.
Yes,
he is. He's so good in that.
He will affect you specially. Absolutely.
But I haven't seen that movie either. I have a huge gap in my film knowledge.
Well, they make you watch so many bad movies,
which is why you should watch Kenjite.
I'm sure
I'm doing Trace
once you're done, you don't want to watch any.
I'm writing all of
That's
these
usually
down.
how
I'm going
I
to
feel.
watch all of them right now.
Oh, don't worry, we share them all.
I want
on
a
our
book
social
report on my
media
desk.
And we have our letterbox too. So for anyone who is curious about our recommendations, you can go check them out on our letterboxed recommendations of justice.
And they have a shuffle feature, so you can like pick one at random, and just go with the first one your streaming service has.
But they're not all Charlie Bronson movies.
No,
most of
just
them
mostly. Thanks, Dylan.
And to get access to it, you have to leave us a 5-star review on iTunes.
But anyway, congratulations, guys. We got to 100 episodes.
Well
I'm
done.
sure we're going to get to
I quit.
100 more, but then we're done.
Sorry.
At 200, we're done. No more. That's
Just
it.
past the
Ooh, we
That's
gotta
the
pick them
cap.
carefully.
Okay, I rehire
Exactly.
myself, and then I'll quit at 200, I promise.
Thank you. But we are all out of show. But we want to thank our guest Trace for joining us. Thank you so much, Trace.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to be in court, and I'm not on trial.
Yes, that is a nice change of pace. And we are all going to check out The Brain That Wouldn't Die on May 10th, 8 o'clock Eastern. And you can get those tickets online. You can follow Mads Are Back on Twitter. They also have a great Facebook page. So join their Facebook page, and you'll get all of the up-to-date information on how to get tickets and start downloading them. And I think there's ways... if you go to get some of the older episodes too, they're periodically pulled out of the vault.
Yes, once a year we pull them out of the vault, dust them off, and there's also no, that is the rerun. That is the rerun. I don't know how this stuff works. Watch Mary Jo show.
Yeah,
it's much better than ours. The Mary Jo Peel show.
Well, they're both good, but everyone should be watching the Mary Jo Peel show and buying Chris Gersbeck's t-shirts. He needs them. He's not Jonah Ray, and so you need to buy his stuff. He will tell you that he's not. Chris has been here to defend Cats, which is probably even harder than what you had to do today.
I only made it 30 minutes into Cats before I bailed.
It was 30 minutes too far, but he made us watch it, unfortunately. But yes, we hope to have Trace back again. We hope everyone else will join us for another 100 episodes, and we'll see you again next time as the reels of justice keep turning. No count it, Schlender?
He was going to say count it 100 times, but he dropped.
What? How did he drop? Okay, well, hopefully he's all right then.
Anniversary!
Thank you, Ryan.
Wait, guys, count it! Ah, damn it.
Please follow us on Twitter at Reels of Justice, Instagram Reels of Justice, and Facebook.com/Reels of Justice.